A man who gets fat even from eating only vegetables after being severely beaten suddenly transforms into a muscular hunk. Just now, the chubby guy in front of us, whose hands are as plump as bananas, finally mustered up the courage to confess to the girl he's liked for a long time. But the girl rejected him, using studying as an excuse. Even his friends couldn't help but mock him, saying his excuse was really lame. Just as the chubby boy was feeling down and dejected, a soccer ball came flying toward him at high speed, and he actually caught it without even looking. At that moment, the person who kicked the ball came over to apologize, but the chubby boy was still lost in his sadness, sighing and wondering if it was because he was too fat. His friends were also at a loss, because the chubby boy was actually a sports enthusiast and a skilled basketball player. He was also very disciplined. He even counted calories at every meal in order to lose weight. If all the overweight people in the world had the same determination as the chubby boy, they would have lost weight long ago. To lose weight, the chubby boy had visited many hospitals, but his weight still hadn't gone down. Afterwards, the chubby boy went home, wondering why he hadn't inherited his parents' genes. His mother had always been very slim since she was young, and although he had never seen his parents in person, he had heard many stories about them. His father was a well-known wrestler who had won many awards during his brief athletic career. At that moment, he saw the vegetable salad his mother had prepared for him. Remembering how his mother used to say that she would gain weight just by breathing, the chubby boy, unable to bear it any longer, decided to eat a pack of instant noodles and get fat on purpose. But after struggling with himself, he gave up and obediently ate the salad. The scene shifts, and the chubby boy is jogging in the park as usual. Thinking about how the girl he liked had rejected him, he became even more determined to lose weight. After finishing his run, exhausted, he realized he had arrived at an unfamiliar place. As he was about to open his map to check his location, a figure suddenly appeared not far away. It was an old man with a head full of white hair. The old man leapt through the air, clearly heading straight for the chubby boy. The chubby boy was surprised that the old man had casually jumped down from a height of 5 meters, but the old man reassured him, saying there was no need to be afraid. He wasn't there to devour him. He then got straight to the point, explaining that he was a monster, serving as a sacred judge, and was responsible for managing all the monsters in this country. Seeing the chubby boy's bewildered expression, clearly unaware of any of this, the old man didn't want to waste any more words. He simply pulled out a piece of cotton cloth and said, "In that case, come with me." The next second, the chubby boy was tightly wrapped up, unable to move at all inside the cloth. He wondered in confusion what exactly he had gotten himself into. When the cloth was finally opened, the chubby boy fell heavily to the ground, and the old man took the cloth back. It was only then that the chubby boy realized he had arrived at a very strange place. There were actually 2 moons in the sky at the same time. This was none other than the legendary ghost realm. The old man told the chubby boy to take a look around. Everyone here was a ghost or monster from within the ghost realm. There was a time when humans, afraid of ghosts and monsters, regarded them as gods, but now they are seen as superstition and phantoms. And every 666 years, they must elect a ghost king. Every tribe of ghosts and monsters in the world is required to select at least one promising young ghost or monster to participate in the election. 666 years ago, the ghosts and monsters went through a brutal selection process before finally choosing a leader to guide them as the ghost king. Seeing the old man go on, Little Fatty was puzzled. What did any of this have to do with him? The old man explained that Little Fatty was the candidate for Ghost King he had chosen, because he was now the only one who had inherited the bloodline of the fairies, even though his bloodline was not that pure. Just as Little Fatty was in disbelief, a dark shadow leapt out from among the ghosts and made a dramatic entrance. Regardless of whether Little Fatty's bloodline was genuine, he still had to undergo the test set by the ghosts. The old man promised that, as long as the Big Mouth monster could defeat Little Fatty, he would reward him by giving Little Fatty to him. For the Big Mouth monster, who hadn't eaten a human in 666 years, Little Fatty in front of him was a delicious feast. Unable to contain his hunger, he immediately charged forward. The old man charged forward, landing a heavy punch squarely on Little Fatty, then immediately followed up with a kick. The powerful impact shattered the ground beneath them. Even though Little Fatty has indeed inherited the bloodline of the Ghost King, they wouldn't just send him to compete without reason. So prove your strength, unless you want to be eaten. As soon as he finished speaking, the Big Mouth monster grabbed Little Fatty and mercilessly slammed him into the ground. Seeing how fragile Little Fatty was, the monster's stomach was already growling. Then, he planned to smash Little Fatty into a meat patty, thinking it would taste even better that way. Just when the old man thought it was over, the Big Mouth monster suddenly felt a strange force coming from his hand. Little Fatty slowly pushed up the monster's massive body, and all the fat on his body had somehow turned into solid muscle. Since ancient times, the abilities possessed by monsters have been limitless. Their most iconic powers and weapons are actually their favorite games, and monsters can instinctively master these abilities without any teacher, simply because these talents are innate to them. As for Little Fatty, the ability he awakened was wrestling. In the next moment, he lifted the massive Big Mouth monster and then slammed him hard onto the ground. When the dust settled, Little Fatty, who had defeated the Big Mouth monster, was no longer human, but a successfully awakened half-demon. Quixiu. When he regained consciousness, he was surprised by the changes in his body. After the old man confirmed that he had regained his senses, he brought over a white-haired girl. But Quixiu was immediately frightened by the fallen Big Mouth monster, and a string of questions popped into his mind. Who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to do? Seeing this, the girl sighed in disappointment. She hadn't expected the legendary half-demon to be so unimpressive. Does someone like this really have the blood of a demon in their veins? Although Quixiu defeated the Big Mouth monster, it was nothing special, because he relied solely on physical strength, not ghost arts. At this moment, Quixiu cautiously interrupted their conversation and asked if she could go home now that the test was over. The next moment, the old man instantly appeared in front of her, and she heard him say, Before Xiu could even recover, the surrounding monsters were already eyeing him hungrily. A human with fairy blood was very tempting to them, but since Xiu had passed the test, the old man couldn't just leave him to fend for himself. So he had the gathered monsters bear witness. From today on, Xiu was officially a monster himself. He then allowed the monsters to leave and instructed them to spread the news. Xiu's name was also added to the list of monsters, so now the other monsters had no reason to attack him. However, the young girl said she still couldn't go home yet. Unless she could properly conceal her monster abilities, monsters under 500 years old were not allowed to risk entering the human world. Xiu wondered, what does that have to do with anything? As soon as he finished speaking, the old man suddenly unleashed a sage-like aura. Seeing this, Xiu immediately retreated, but the old man was only trying to scare him. Still, Xiu had already leapt several meters away. It was obvious that Xiu, who had just awakened, couldn't control his surging power at all. His strength was much greater than that of ordinary monsters, dozens of times stronger than a regular human, even without training. So if he wasn't careful, he could easily hurt people. But to ask him to wait 500 years was just too outrageous. The old man explained that, in fact, it would only take half a year. The 500-year restriction was set by the current Ghost King, and that was 666 years ago. Back then, all ghosts and monsters could freely enter and leave the human world, so whenever night fell, many humans would be eaten by these creatures. But not all ghosts and monsters were hostile toward humans. Some who were friendly to humans would actually protect them. So in the past, humans treated ghosts and monsters not only with fear, but also expressed their awe through kneeling and worship. However, as soon as the current Ghost King took power, he issued the 500-year restriction and forbade ghosts and monsters from harming or even approaching humans. As a result, humans gradually forgot about their existence. But in half a year, the Ghost King will step down, and the new Ghost King will have the authority to rewrite the current rules, including those set by the previous Ghost King. When night falls, all the monsters invade the human world, awakening the forgotten fear and awe within people's hearts. But only if Xiu can master his own power. Within 6 months, will he have the ability to change all of this. So, just how powerful does he need to become? Xiu's eyes grew resolute. In order to re-establish the rules to govern the monsters, he must become the new king of ghosts. As long as Xiu can unleash even half of his bloodline's power, it will be enough for him to protect his friends and family. But right now, his strength isn't even enough to qualify for the competition. At this moment, the old man finally introduced the young girl. Her name was Xuehua, and she was also a candidate for the King of Ghosts. She appeared here in order to gain the old man's approval, because as a young person, she also wanted to enter the human world as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, Xiu looked puzzled. Was there another way to return home? In fact, aside from the many 500-year-old spirits, there are also a few recognized spirits who have managed to infiltrate the human world. Yet, despite her confidence in her ghostly arts and superior strength, Xuehua has never qualified to enter. The reason is precisely because she lacks the necessary patience and self-control. Now, however, there happens to be an opportunity to test her. As a human, Xiu is the most suitable person to test Xuehua. As long as Xuehua can successfully teach Xiu within a month, the old man will allow both of them to enter the human world. But Xuehua is less than a month old. What could she possibly teach? However, the old man isn't going to indulge her. If she can't handle it, she'll just have to obediently wait another 6 months. Whether or not you want to teach him is up to you. Without waiting for Xuehua to respond, the old man was already wrapped up in cotton cloth, and in the next second, he disappeared. Left with no choice, Xuehua immediately asked Xiu, "Do you know what ghostly power is?" As expected, Xiu had no concept of it at all. But then his eyes filled with terror as he saw the big-mouthed monster that had fallen behind Xuehua climb back up. The monster warned Xuehua, "Little fox, that human is my prey." But Xuehua didn't take him seriously at all. "It's because of lowly creatures like you," she said, "that monsters are humiliated by humans." Hearing this, the big-mouthed monster flew into a rage and launched an attack. "Shut up! You damn fox!" Unlike humans, there are significant differences in the species and bloodlines of monsters. The higher the class of the species, the greater their potential and the more powerful their innate abilities. And now, the monsters closest to the top of the pyramid are the nine-tailed foxes, a race renowned as evil beasts. Faced with the big-mouthed monster who didn't know his own limits, Xuehua easily subdued him with just a slight display of her skills. And witnessing this surreal scene before him, Xiu was so shocked that he was left speechless. Just as he saw, the strange ability Xuehua used was indeed ghost arts, but it consumes both energy and stamina. Ghost arts are divided into innate and acquired types. The wrestling technique Xiu awakened belongs to the innate category. Only specific races can awaken innate ghost arts, while acquired ghost arts can be learned through training. Then Xuehua used the big-mouthed monster as an example. Without having learned ghost arts, it was nothing more than a brute force good for nothing. So even though Xuehua had already decided to teach Xiu, if he didn't have the determination to stick with it, he might as well give up early and not waste each other's time. Hearing this, Xiu promised that he would give it his all. Although Xuehua thought he would most likely still fail, it was still better than not trying at all. Then, Xuehua suggested they go eat first. As she had mentioned before, using ghost arts consumes energy. In fact, as long as one stays in the ghost realm, energy can be replenished normally through breathing and eating. But since Xiu had just arrived in the ghost realm, he didn't have this ability yet. Xuehua guessed that he must be very hungry by now. However, Xiu didn't feel hungry at all, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was struck by intense pain. The veins in his arm visibly expanded. This was a sign that his energy had been completely depleted. Xuehua said that the solution was actually quite simple. Just eat the big-mouthed monster in front of him. Once there is a conflict between ghosts and monsters,